Welcome to Deges and Dragons.
I thought this was going to be hard, but...
Welcome to Deges and Dragons.
Who wants some of the Ripper?
They're state champs, baby. Woo!
He's clearly Captain Crunch. I'm a man of the people.
Shattered world.
Ripper knows. Ripper always knows. Degecast.
And welcome to another episode of the Degecast, the supplemental podcast for our YouTube show, Deges and Dragons. Hey, would you like to be a part of this show? Well, we'd love to have you. Please join us, email us at degetime@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at the Degetime voicemail, 617-506-9686. Again, that's 617-506-9686, and we'll answer your questions, read your comments right here next week. Hey, I'm your host, Nate Lindberg, and you can find me all over social media at Nate Lindberg, and you can follow our brand on Twitter, Facebook, and most importantly, YouTube at Degetime. Now, joining me, as always, we have our veteran RPG gamer, a game master in his own right, and a permanent member of our Deges and Dragons player panel. And he was definitely the type of kid who cut open Stretch Armstrong just to see what the hell was inside, most likely with maniacal laughter as well. Please welcome Tony Shermooksness.
Yeah, I went through like 3 Stretch Armstrongs.
Yeah, I kind of had a feeling, dude. I had a feeling. I'm glad they brought him back, though. You know,
Did they really?
Yeah, they brought him back. They were like, you could buy him in the stores and stuff. I don't know if you still can, but they did for a while. No,
I always figured he was filled with like terrible toxic stuff, and that's why they didn't sell those things anymore.
He probably was. And next, he is our resident psychology and therapy expert, our resident game master, and he is a man who shows absolutely no mercy while playing Super Smash Brothers, Conrad.
Yes, all shall bow before the might of Donkey Kong.
And yeah, absolutely. He gets behind, he gets in control of Donkey Kong. Game is over, guys. Game is over. Now, as we did with Kids on Bikes and our Shattered series, we like to bring a member or two of our player panel for those series onto the show so they could talk about their experience playing the game and all that good fun stuff. And you know what? We haven't done that yet with Clink. So here we go. Let's introduce the man who plays Tsuru the Blacksmith in our Clink series, Tim Norton. Tim, welcome to the Degecast.
Thank you so much for having me. Can't wait to get into it.
Absolutely. No, glad to have you, man. Glad to have you. So yeah, to get things going, since next week we're actually going to be talking with the creator of Clink, David Sherduan, as I've learned to pronounce it correctly this time. He's going to be joining us here on the show. So since usually the last episode of our gameplay series, the podcast kind of revolves around GM notes and things like that, and since we won't be able to do that, we're going to kick over to Conrad to start now to kind of talk about some of his GM creation, things along those lines, and anything else he wants to talk about to kind of wrap things up without giving away spoilers for the last episode.
Yeah, so exactly. I was going to start by saying all of that, essentially. I
beat you to it.
Yeah, we're next week. I'm not going to talk about it. I'll talk about it right now. The story crafting from the GM perspective. The game naturally, of course, caters to the West, as we've spoken of previously in like Western movies, the mysterious drifters, and all of that. And where every other game as well, nobody has played the games previously. That's like part of our method, you know. So like, you watch us learn so that it's not as intimidating. Like
you watch us learn so you don't have to.
Yeah. And the Clink was one of the games that both Nate and Tony had previously played. And it's simple enough where it's be hard to forget how to play. And in that setting, we did like the traditional Western setting. So I knew right from the start I'd have to mix that up, just, introduce something new, take them a little bit out of the element. And I know that, of course, like Tony and I are both like really big anime fans, and not to say that everything Japanese is, anime and whatever, but just like the interest in Japanese culture is definitely there. Where, like Billy, definitely not the case. And Nate, like, was into like Sword Art Online.
Briefly.
The first season.
That's all you need to watch. It's fine.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Though I do like Alice's Asian. But anyway, so and then I was also like just watching Demon Slayer, and that's kind of like, traditional, like really beautiful sword play. I'm just so into this, like right this moment. And then I was like, reflecting back on Clink and being a mysterious drifter and whatnot. And there's so many like classic Japanese like drama pieces that begin that way anyway, where it's just like the exact same thing, where a mysterious person just like shows up in the town and their face is covered and they have a sword. It's like, oh, okay. So it's basically like the exact same thing, except instead of shooting people, they slash them. But they'll show up into town, and then like they're all of a sudden like, oh, that was like this famed swordsman who like felled thousands of people, who just so happened to be able to save us from the local bullies single-handedly. It's like, oh yeah, so that this all checks out.
Right.
The only reason you haven't heard of them is because you're in such a small town away from civilization.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's right. So it really like was a perfect parallel, I thought, to that, like really the core of like Clink's inspiration, but still not like a cookie cutter take on it. So then from that point, it's like, okay, all right, let's start building this world and doing the research and everything. And I was thinking about how to propel a short story forward, and kind of what I did with the last thing I did with Clink that the viewers wouldn't have seen, but in that Western version, there were the 5 fingers. These were the henchmen that worked for like the local villain. And they were essentially checkpoints, like, okay, like interacting with each of these people in some capacity, whether, however it ends, that's moving the narrative forward. Because, Clink is supposed to really just be like a movie rather than, a trilogy novel that's, thousands of pages long. It's the movie. So, you need meaningful checkpoints. So it's where, the Oni start coming into play. And then
it's funny, I didn't even put 2 and 2 together there until you just pointed it out, that because obviously you guys wouldn't have seen the game that Conrad's originally talking about, the Western game that we played, but we was talking about those 5 fingers, those 5. I did not even put 2 and 2 together that's what you did. You cut between these 2 games.
Yeah. And then I also thought, and it worked well. So this was like, just, pull from that past experience. And so then I thought, okay, how to make these checkpoints meaningful for the players. I mean, for the viewers, it's meaningful in that they were defeated. But, the players, it's like, okay, then now we just go to the next one. Like, that's it. And we can't observe anything happen, like there's no shift to the barrier. Like the townspeople like don't have any sort of weird feelings or anything. It's just, okay, so that one's destroyed.
Did we even go back to the town in between the Oni, or did we just like truck through one trip?
After the fire Oni, we went back to town.
We did.
But that was to lick our wounds.
Yeah. that was returning to the Poke Hospital. Oh, why can't I think of the name of it?
Poke Center.
Poke Center. Thank you. That was us returning to the Poke Center.
Yeah,
Damn, that was some good tea.
Yeah, right. You were healed just as fast as the Poke Center too.
Right, with that delicious tea.
Yeah. And at that point too, you never quite know as a game master when a clue like is too obvious or not obvious enough. So, with the Fire Oni's defeat, I said the magic word, It's like it whispers this word out into existence.
Kasai.
Like, oh, okay, cool. And had to like give a little nudge. Guys, remember what happened when you defeated that fire Oni?
Oh yeah, there was something. There was a word.
Yeah. So then, of course, that's how the swords came to be, and it helped to make the players, I would certainly think, feel more badass. Where the first fight with but a fragment of one of these went rather poorly, but then the addition of a sword really changed the whole feel. At least for me, it changed the whole feel of the second fight.
I think so too. I think because once we kind of figured out that this word kind of gave us a weapon to fight the next, I think at one point, as soon as we defeated the monster, someone in the party just said the word and was instantly like, "All right, we need these. This is part of the way to defeat these Oni."
Yeah, it was definitely a nice confident boost as well, especially after the fire Oni
Oh my
incident.
god. Well, I mean, because it was almost like, I know at least for me, right, going through that fire Oni fight, it was like almost a sense of helplessness after a little while. Like, oh my god, nobody could seem to just pull off like a move or pull off coin flips to actually propel us forward at all. You know, it's like one step forward, 3 steps back. So it's kind of, really discouraging in a way. But then all of a sudden, we kind of get that glimmer of hope with that extra weapon, and then finally, that second weapon, after the next Oni, and like you said, Tony, just that little confidence boost, which as a player was really kind of nice. It's like, okay, good, we're not going to get stuck like that again.
Say it was
I
like
like
really
the 50-50 mechanic. It seems so simple, but it can go so wrong so quickly.
Oh, yeah, it just adds so much chaos. It's great.
Exactly. It's like, it's only a 50-50 shot, and you can get a couple of positive results in the short term, but in the long run, you roll 2, 3, 4, tails in a row, and you're going, okay, now I see where this can really, situations can fall apart in 2 turns, 3 turns.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it was, now that you say, or now maybe you're just saying about the feeling of helplessness, the coins can certainly, it can feel like all of fate has like turned against you that way too, where it's like the odds are 1 in 2.
Why does Kismet shun me so?
Never tell me the odds.
But and that was something too that, not that it was again, like kind of referencing back to off screen, but it was something that was in the back of my mind a little bit, and it became like far worse than ever with the Fire Oni fight. So it made me like relieved to have like already thought to include these swords, and I could also see like as a game master, like, so where Nate said he felt this like just complete helplessness, but then the second Oni fight, he's sprinting through traps and just looking to smash stone with his bare fists, and it's like, I'm going to save everybody. It was like, so
all Kenta needed was just a little bit of confidence to become one cocky little. I'm not going to continue that sentence.
He wasn't that little though.
I know.
yeah,
It's all those buns.
All hot buns.
right.
Grandma's best.
So then it was also kind of a little bit of a mystery, and how to balance those in advance was, I mean, it's a near impossible task to balance the swords. And so I basically just kind of took the Mega Man approach, where it said, okay,
all right,
as Mega Man, you have the option to start with, your initial set of bad guys, and you don't have any of their weapons, and you just have to pick one, and one of them will be the easiest one. But if you did have the weapon that was strong against them, it'd be a cakewalk. Which for the Fire Oni, if you had the water sword would have been an absolute cakewalk, but you didn't.
So
Now,
Okay, so-
how catered was the game to hit the fire oni first, or was that just like something that we fell into?
See,
If memory serves, the compass it went to the fire oni first.
That's
because
true.
it
We
went
had the
red.
compass.
So Conrad, was there a way that we could have actually like changed the direction of the compass, like switched it, like almost like toggled between the different
Now, I have a theory, and I guess Conrad can direct me, because it did change one point in the game when we were originally going to the wind or the light oni, and then we got pushed off the cliff, and that's where we got put into the water oni place.
Yep.
So it just shows the closest oni to us, Conrad?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Oh boy.
So I guess if we just explored a while, we may have been able to kind of finagle that a bit. But we were
Yeah.
also kind of headstrong in adventure. We're just like, oh, it's pointing in a direction. Let's go.
There's a weird blind man in a boat. I'm just gonna take this oar and go exploring.
Yeah, he got eaten by a bird. What could possibly go wrong?
Birds?
Birds.
I don't
Oh,
like when
no.
you guys talk about birds.
No, it's
Somebody give this man a coin.
yes. Tank.
But yeah, and this past episode, we got to see, three blades, and at least the cliffhanger is the premise of teamwork, and it sounds like a really good idea. There is this spectacular highlight reel of failures.
And over and over and over again.
Yeah,
I
which
just
really
want to. I
is
just also want to kind of interject that was one of the first things that Nate edited for this the Clink series, which is that failure rail. I remember him sending us that before he sent us the draft of the first episode.
Actually, I got to admit that was actually Conrad's brainchild. I edited it together, but Conrad actually picked out the different clips and the sequence, the order to put them in. I think I adjusted a couple of them, the order of a couple of them, just because I thought they flowed better when I was listening to them. But that was Conrad's brainchild, and that particular one.
yeah, it came out great, Nate. You did a great job.
I agree.
It's just so hilarious, and it really does. I think the second to last episode, like the three swords, the idea of teamwork, and then this failure reel, like all of that, I feel like builds really well for what may come in the finale. But yeah, and I my hope was that all the players by this stage, who, since all three have their own swords, feel that like that power, and that's why I made too, like every design. It's like the design has to sound like cool and unique too, where then it becomes like personalized. It's like, all right, like, yeah, this is my magic sword. All right, it's not up for grabs,
Right.
So, and of course, I had made them with 4 members in mind, but
But then, the public train system had to go and completely screw that up.
yeah,
Oh.
how dare they like intervene with magic swords?
Right?
But
Ugh.
yeah, I mean, you can
There's
tell
the
me
one
if that's
train that is magical that I approve of.
Thomas
The Hogwarts Express.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there we go.
or it's Express. All right.
Yeah. I was like, I actually went to the Polar Express before I went to either Thomas or the Hogwarts, but
I went to an 80s anime in my mind,
Dude.
and that's just me.
you would. We keep getting derailed. Conrad, I'm sorry.
Ha
Ah!
Derailed.
I didn't even do
But-
that on purpose.
I believe that.
You guys as players can tell me if it's true or not. If the inclusion of the swords and like the way they were described and everything made that change, that feeling of progression and checkpoints and that power creep and confidence in what you can do.
I think once we understood their purpose, and whether through action or perception, it gave us like that idea of power. It's like we're running on 50-50 chances, which as a character you don't really understand, but as a player, when you get there, it kind of gives you like almost like a sense of hope or purpose to have this item that can really change the course of your adventure. So much as a checkpoint, I think we understood that more towards the final fight. I hope I didn't spoil anything.
No,
but
No,
it
I don't think so.
gives it gives like, okay, now I really understand the gravity and the purpose of these chapters almost, and it helps round out the character's adventure.
yeah, and I mean, I kind of feel exactly the same way. It's like it was like I was saying a little bit ago with kind of just that feeling of helplessness after the Fire Oni fight. Once we kind of understood what was going on and the progression of the story, we understood that every time we beat an Oni, we would get a weapon or a sword that would kind of help defeat either the next or another one. Kind of just like that elemental style, fire, water, wind, and all that. That it definitely did. It made me feel a lot, both as a player and as a character, a lot more secure, that we kind of just knew what we were doing. Because like when you think about it, we were like, okay, let's go out and we're going to defeat these Oni, but how? And we obviously had some trouble with the Fire Oni, and I remember thinking to myself after that fight, I'm like, if this is how all these elemental fights are going to go, this is going to be like a 72-part episode of Clink, like, or 72. So yeah, like I was kind of wondering what was going to happen, but yeah, that it obviously not only gave us a sense of power, both, like I said, character-wise as well as in real life, but it also helped to progress the game along because we kind of had a better understanding of how to use them, especially after the water fight. We had a better understanding of how to use them and to our advantage. So I would agree with this.
Even still, the water fight was not as rough as the fire fight, but it was still not the easier of the fights that we had in the series.
But there was towards the end of that fight, it was like we were starting to figure out that we could use them both and a couple of the swords in conjunction with each other and things like that. So it was really there where we started to kind of understand really the mechanics that Conrad put into that, or at least I feel that way anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I guess I had a different mindset throughout everything. I guess while my other teammates were frustrated and feeling helpless during the Fire Oni fight. I mean, you watch back that episode, I'm in hysterics the entire episode. Just the entire ordeal was just so amusing to me. And I was 100% ready for the rest of the fights to go down just like that. And I'm just like, yeah, it's probably take forever, but it would probably be entertaining in one form or another. But obviously, yeah, the addition of the swords, once we figured them out, definitely helped boost the confidence. Like, okay, maybe this isn't going to be an everlasting failure on our part.
No, 100%.
I remember specifically after the water fight. Now, I said I was in search of treasure, which is pretty lame, and I'll admit that. But the clams underneath, full of pearls and gems and whatever, I felt the defeat of the Oni and the protection of my group, which I had just met not 24 hours before. I felt the protection of them was more important. Finding a purpose to follow our creed, to defeat these Oni was more important than some gems. It brought forth a little bit more, even just through a couple of encounters, that sense of purpose. I did go into the game a little blind. I wish I had done a little bit more research, but It was enjoyable as it was, and I would 100% play again. It was a ton of fun. I loved the mechanics, but the character development through even such a short campaign, it was one day, was really enjoyable.
I'm actually glad you brought that up because the episode next week's Degecast with David Sherduan, we actually recorded earlier in the week, and that's actually something that we start talking about with David is some of the character development and how our characters, especially they're these drifters that they don't know one another, especially like somebody like Casanova Brigadoon. I mean, he's the odd man out. Everybody else is Japanese, and he's a Spaniard. But everybody kind of did. They got this bond. Everybody had this bond because we went through these horrible things together, right? We went through this, all the like the Fire Oni fight and all that failure and all these things. But at the end of the day, our group really did pull together and fought alongside one another. Even though, like you to your point, Tim, just. We didn't know each other just 24 hours or so before this fight or before this journey, if you will. So I think that's something that's really cool because, like you said, you were coming in search of treasure. I'm here. I'm this like giant, championship sumo wrestler. You're trying to prove to the world that I'm the best. And I take that and I completely throw that aside to save this town, and in a lot of ways, I put my own health and body on the line to save you guys. And
by doing so, it proved you were the best.
Exactly. That's actually kind of where I was going with that. So I'm glad you said that. But yeah, so it's I'm like I said, I'm glad you brought that up, Tim, because it was a theme that we brought up in this other conversation. And I just feel like you organically bringing it up really kind of validated that. So that was cool.
Remember back in episode 2 when Kenta threw off his robes and charged a dancing fortune teller?
Yes.
And by the end, he was by up to this point, by now, he's this heroic guy who's just focused on teamwork and defeating the Oni together.
Right.
That's character development.
Yeah, he was our Iron Man for our little adventures movie. He was pompous all about himself at the beginning, but by the end, he was like, you know what? He's a team player at the end.
Yeah.
Self-sacrifice, all that fun stuff. It's fine.
Big softy.
You got the big part right.
I love Hot Buns 3000.
How did you know my username? All right. So, like I said a little bit ago, we wanted to kind of get we like to get our players' perspective, and obviously Tim's given us some great perspective so far on the conversation that we were just talking about, character development and all that stuff. But overall, Tim? What did you really think about Clink? Itself. It's like I know I asked you this in the past, and I don't remember the answer. I don't really know what your level of gaming is, off the top of my head. I want to say it was relatively novice, but I can't remember. So I mean, coming in as a, if you are a novice player, which I think you are, what this was for you, what this kind of, just mechanics, how it was easy for you to pick up. I'm going to stop rambling now and just let you talk.
Well, I have had a little bit of experience in D&D years ago. I'm starting to get back into it now. I would 100% call myself a novice. The mechanics were simple, kind of being thrown into it. I didn't really prepare. I think with, maybe an hour of looking over the rules and being able to build a character beforehand, I think I would have done a little bit better. But the game was super playable. And, when we were done, I was like, when are we doing this again? And then of course COVID hit, so we weren't able to meet in person again.
Right.
The game was a ton of fun. To have your fate decided by a coin flip turn after turn can be almost addictive. When you succeed, you want to succeed again, and when you fail, it's well, I'm so close to succeeding. I can do this next thing. it was a ton of fun, and I enjoyed every minute. It was a great afternoon. I would 100% recommend it. I want to play again.
No, it was a really good time. And like, personally, I'm such a fan of the storytelling aspect of role-playing games. There's a lot of games out there that are, super crunchy. D&D for one, it's a perfect example. You get a lot of rules and a lot of, math and stuff like
There's
that.
There's a lot going on. Yeah, absolutely. For this to be, almost an extension of the character, like your character kind of builds how the story can go with the flashbacks and the scars that can, tip the DM to go a certain way or the other. And it 100% can turn the party on its head, with a coin flip, with a quick flashback, with something that you may not have even seen coming. Yep. So for the storytelling perspective, beautiful. For being such a simple game, it can be very complex and take turns that you would not expect to go at all.
Yeah. And one of the things that again, we'll be talking with David about next week, is that it's a great game to just pick up and play. It's the rule book itself is, you could sit down and read it probably less than an hour. And character creation is, you kind of want to have a basic backbone of your character, but you really don't want to know anything about your character going into it. You really want to kind of have
just more of like a character trope more than a full character.
Yeah, like I was going to say like a skeleton, but
flesh them out as you go along.
Exactly. Flesh them out as you go along with the group. And that's probably my favorite aspect of this game is just that collaborative storytelling, collaborative character building. So overall, like it's great. We're unfortunately we are not coming back to Clink in season 2. But we have a few games that I think you might have some fun playing if you would like to come back for season 2.
Absolutely, I would accept any invite whenever possible.
Hell yeah! No, we'll definitely be in touch. Because we've got everything fleshed out for season 2 as we talked about last week. And we'll be certainly putting together a cast at some point in the near future because I think we would like to start getting some of this stuff filmed probably towards the end of the summer. So it's all going to be remote. We'll be doing this Zoom thing, but
safer that way.
Yeah, safer that way. Although I want to be able to give Tony a hug again.
I do miss you too, Nate.
A bear hug.
That's right.
Well, obviously.
All right, guys, this has been another episode of the Degecast. Again, I am your host, Nate Lindberg, and you can find me on Twitter at Nate Lindberg. You can follow us, this brand, follow our show at Degetime on Twitter. You can find this podcast. Well, hey, if you already listening to it, you know where to find it. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, anywhere you find your podcasts. Just, search Degecast. You'll find it. Be sure to subscribe because, hey, that helps us out. Tony, say goodnight.
Good night.
And Conrad, you could say goodnight or say whatever, because you know what? I like you better than Tony.
F*** you.
All right, good night.
Oh, my God. And, hey, this podcast has gone off the rails. Tim, we certainly appreciate you coming here tonight, giving us your time and your insight on Clink, man. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys having me, and I can't wait to game again.
All right, guys, and we will see you next week when we talk to David Sherduan, the creator of Clink. Have a good one, guys.